your name?
My name is Laurenee. Thank you.
That's a really pretty name. Is there a story behind it?
I'm from Haiti, and my mom's name is Lawrence, and she's from France. And my dad's name is Serge, and he's from Haiti. And I think they mixed it together, and it became Laurenee. Yes.
That's really pretty.
Thank you so much.
So you talked about your Haitian and your French culture.
Mhm.
How does those cultures influence your art?
So, unfortunately, I wasn't really raised with my mother, so I'm more influenced by my Haitian culture, which I think is wonderful because it has the palette, endless colors, and the views. It's an island, so you can imagine animals, flowers, you name it, the food, the people. The religion, our religion is Buddhism. It's like all that I implemented into my art as well, so I'm very happy about that. So
If you couldn't create art anymore, what would you do?
that's a scary thought. But I think art doesn't really come from what I do with my hands. It's all about my mind. I just think I'm a creative person. So even if I wasn't able to create art with my hands, I'll find another way to perhaps create art, my voice or something else. Like I think any creative person has talent, undeniable talent. Rather is the talent that they are actively cultivating, or maybe talent that they never knew existed.
So you talked about creating art. How would you describe your art to a person who couldn't see it?
I would say it's very colorful, I would say it doesn't have a specific shape. It's because I think some people say a shape that's around is a feminine shape. So circles are feminine, and then if it's a square, then it's a masculine shape. I think for me, it's unlimited to the amount. It wouldn't be for a female or a male, And I would say, because I have different styles, if somebody was to define my abstract work, it will give them a bigger imagination that they have themselves, because I take you to a whole nother world that doesn't exist. I would say it would make you think a lot. It's not just the art itself. It's very big, very vibrant. Depends on what kind of style of art that I'm doing, but if I was to do an artwork coming from my country, it probably give them a nostalgia, There is some artwork that I do that has to do with women. It might make a woman feel powerful, depending on how other people are describing it around them, like a wow, you know what I mean? Because I make women look so powerful, and they look like they're standing on top of the world. Animals, I love doing animals, so they would look I think somebody would think like, wow, she loves animals, and she loves using the color blue. Blue means passive and calm, so that also would mean something to them based on the colors that I use. Yes.
So when we're on the topic of your art bringing nostalgia to those of your country, how does your art differ from other art from your culture?
Well, I think I'm the greatest at mixing the media, the acrylic media. I'm the queen at blending. Somebody say I'm the GOAT. That's already a plus as far as the craft itself, creating the craft. I also think the ideas that I have, I like to be original, so I like to really create things that nobody's seen before. But you still using iconic things, iconic people that still represent my country, but with a style that still come from my imagination. So yes, that I think it differs from my originality.
So I noticed you talked about painting women in your art. Why do you paint women?
I wasn't always so confident, and when I was a teen, I wasn't so aware of my power. As a teen, I wasn't aware of my power until I got as an adult. So I'm infatuated with the power of women.
Does it matter to you how people perceive your art?
I used to care at first. I think part of me still cares, But I also know I put so much work because I've been doing this for 10 years. It's about to be 11 years now. And I think I know that deep inside I put the work, and that nobody can tell me I can't do it.
How do you feel about the way that people see you, how that affects how they see your art?
I always thought that art shouldn't be judged, and I always said to myself, I really shouldn't care how people see my art, because sometimes I could paint it and they still don't understand what I'm saying, and they perceive it their own way, because art is really how somebody's looking at it, and but I also had to realize that there are such thing as religion, there's such thing as politics, and I don't want to use my own imagination to tarnish how some people might see it and switch it up and everything, There are certain things I don't want to play with, like voodooism, my cultural stuff. I don't want to just put it with anything that wouldn't make sense. I want to, when I do something, that it actually means something to somebody. I know I'm going to get judged, but I also think about my customers and how they feel and everything. So that, I hope that answers the question.
So before you talked about the types of art you do, which one speaks to you the most?
I would say abstract, because I think when I do any type of artwork, so I do portraits, I feel like God already created that. But when I do abstract, I feel like I'm kind of like the God of my own world, and I can create unlimited things that makes me feel like I'm a God myself, and nobody can really judge it because I'm satisfied with it. I created it, and abstract would be the answer.
Do you want people to perceive your art as intellectual?
So when I hear the word intellectual, it kind of boxes the idea of how smart somebody can be. It's like put it in the spectrum of this is the smartest person because they are intellectual. I know what intellectual means, right?
Yeah.
But when I give a kid, right? A kid is not intellectual, right? They haven't learned so much to be into intellectual capacity, but I still want my art to speak to a kid. You know what I mean? So I want to be able to give my art to a kid and give it to a grandparent, give it to your generation, give it to somebody, and it still speaks to everybody the same way. So I wouldn't put it in the intellectual spectrum.
Earlier we talked about how people perceived your art, but how do you want people to perceive your art?
So I wouldn't say just perceiving it, the feeling that it gives somebody. I think that would be the goal, the way I want people to feel. I want when somebody to look at my stuff, they feel like they own a piece of my history. Because I think most people look at an artwork and they buy the artwork because it's beautiful, but I think if I share my story and they know who created it, then it makes the piece a little bit more beautiful, because my story isn't so beautiful when you think about it, everything that I went through as a person, and then I get to create beautiful pieces. And I think that's what I want people to get out of it, like how somebody with not such a beautiful story can create so many things that are so beautiful, and I get to have a piece of her story, because at some point she sat down and created just for me while she's living in her story. Yeah? Okay.
So when we're talking about your history with like your artwork, if you had a book about your artwork, what would be chapter 1?
I think my chapter 1 would be what people would expect my last chapter to be. I wouldn't know the name though right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you asked about the book, but I always wanted a book, but I'm waiting for a successful thing to happen, and I had a lot of success, but I'm waiting for something to tick, for me to be like, that's the success that I want to put in the book. I want people to see everything that I went through. So I think my chapter 1 would be what success would mean to me in the beginning.
So you talked about the beginning or the end of your story being sad. So are you willing to tell us what exactly that means for context?
I was born in Haiti, and my dad was 24 and he had me and my brother, and my mom left when I was 9 months old, and I basically had my dad until my dad passed away at 8. I was 8, 9 years old, something like that. But I watched my dad paint, and that's how I learned to be an artist. And I did not meet my mom until I was 26, 27 for the first time. But in between that, when I came here, I did not listen to my family, and I went into group home, into shelters, into foster care, having families not wanting me. They take me one day and they don't want me the next day. So rejection and stuff like that. And I didn't believe in myself. I didn't know my worth and everything. So you go through a lot between all these things, and to have art saved my life. When I went to group home, I used to do art every Wednesday, and to be feeling like you're not worth anything, and then to have somebody do art with you, and you love art, so you feel a connection. So I know that lady that used to come every Wednesday and helping me paint used to make me feel loved. So that's how I started feeling like, oh, there's art. There's something that I can create and everything, but I didn't know that it would change my life. And I want to be that person to people too. That person that used to come every Wednesday. I want to be somebody that means something to somebody, and they can look at me and be like, wow, she went through so much. And then now she's a successful person. I wouldn't say famous. I don't like the word famous, but I would say a very successful person, where what I do is putting me in a position to not only get some money to live, because everybody wants money and they need money to live, but also be able to teach my daughter to be an entrepreneur and start her own business whenever she wants. Whatever she desires, she can do. The only difference, she doesn't have to go through all the stuff that I went through, because she's watching me live my story. So if people can look at me and be like, oh, I can do it too, that's to me is success. You know what I mean? It's not really about the art. So it wouldn't even be like, oh, I want you to be an artist, but I want you to be like, it doesn't matter what you've gone through, but you can pick up and do it, whatever age, whatever the thing might be. Yeah.
So what was the start of your art journey? Like that moment of truth when you knew where you were going to become an artist?
So remember, I've been painting in the group home and everything, so I had my daughter. So at 19 years old, I have my daughter, and I lived in Maryland. And then I just was painting at home, doing my little thing, posting thing on Instagram with my little art, but I knew I was destined to be an artist. I just knew that from beginning. But I just didn't know that I would start the process and that I actually would do it. But when it's time to do something, the world will shift. So I applied to be at Art Basel, which is an art show in Miami. It's a big art show. And I was like, I want to go. And the lady sent me something to apply, and I did not get chosen. So what did I do? I picked up everything that I had, and I was like, I'm going to Art Basel. And I took $120 to Miami, and I got picked. I worked so hard. I did all the albums for Rick Ross, and I ended up meeting Rick Ross because I did his album. I sold so many paintings to Rick Ross. And then I ended up doing an art show at the Haitian Museum in Florida, and then that's been my career since then. I moved with $120 in Florida, and that's been that. If you follow your dream and follow your purpose, the world will turn around to make it happen for you.
So you talked about posting stuff on Instagram. Are there any differences between the art you post on Instagram and the art you make at home and sell?
So I don't really have any art that I separate from the other ones until I have a client that's like, they don't want me to post, they want me to keep it private. But they both go with each other. Like, I don't have any art that I don't really post in between Instagram. Everything I post on Instagram, it sells right away. So if that answers, I don't really separate them. I think when I just started my career, the funny thing is I used to beg people to just take my paintings for free and put them in their house, and they used to be like, no, it's okay. And now I have to send people begging me to buy, but I don't have enough for them. And my paintings are like $3,000 and $4,000 and up now, right? Obviously, I want more money. Everybody not loves, but they like to make more money, right? But as an artist also, there's days that you have a great moment, and then sometimes you don't make any money. That's just what it is. It's pure. I've learned that the more you're focused into making money, the more you lose the love that you have for your craft. You know, the passion won't be there anymore. So I try to stay away from project that doesn't give me life and that's gonna suck me in too much for the money. So it's okay to say I don't wanna make $5,000 if I know the client is gonna be a client that doesn't give me peace of mind. So I'm grateful that I'm in a position that I made enough money that certain project I don't have to take anymore. And at some point I can be like, I don't know, I don't wanna do commission. I just wanna do artwork, you know, like, but I have space. I've allowed myself to have space to open new creative thoughts and abilities. I just started creating my own furnitures, painting on the furnitures, painting on the tables, painting on the couch, piano. At some point, I couldn't even walk around my house without seeing colorful things everywhere. I had to get some couches out. Like, if not, I would end up painting it too, you know? So that to me, I'm grateful because even though I'm making money and I have specific clients, but I'm still, as an artist, able to take whatever I'm imagining and putting in the real world. And that itself, for an artist, it's something that money can't buy. You know, sometimes you're stuck in your own, or you have a creative block, you know, the artist block, and then you can't do anything. I'm grateful that I'm not finding myself in that position, and that money isn't what's putting me in that position. Yeah. So if we were to do a timeline, you will see that Instagram, I started showing my body, you know. I have a voluptuous body. I started showing my body, but you gotta remember I'm young. I'm using my body to attract people, whether it's female or male. And I knew the turning point was where I started to feel like my art was worth way more than what I was posing, like how I was posing, you know. And I trained people to look at me a certain way, to respect me. They used to expect me to post my body and, you know, to show out. But now, if I was to post my body, they'll be like, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Like, cause I've trained people to respect my worth, to respect my craft, to respect me as an entrepreneur, a woman CEO. So I think my turning point was realizing that I started to feel uncomfortable when I didn't have artwork next to me and I was posing. Because I felt like as a brand, I started creating us together. And in the beginning, it used to be like this pretty little girl that paints. And then now I want to be the artist that's pretty. Yeah, she's pretty, but this is the artist. And I think the turning point is being comfortable with not being the pretty girl only and being the artist first, you know?
So you were talking about how you paint women who don't exactly look like you, and you expressed that you kind of wish that you looked like that. So did you have to learn to be comfortable with yourself?
Oh yeah, that was very much a journey. I think being from Haiti, I didn't know about racism. I knew about colorism. And then when I came to the United States, it's a whole cultural, it's almost like people are boxed into certain things. So it made me look at color a different way. So even if I was to feel black, I just knew that this wasn't my experience, and I could never have the experience of somebody that's truly black with their skin. So sometimes I know that the experience that I have and the privilege that I get is being from my own skin, the skin color that I have, because we live in a world where most people are feeling like they are better in the skin, like basically, so they get more advantage. So I always knew that because I have this privilege, I have to use that platform to shine light on people that aren't gonna have the privilege that I get. So I think in a sense, me doing it is me using my platform because it's wider to shine light onto things. You know what I mean? Was it challenging? I think I'm very comfortable into myself, but sometimes it has more to do with how I wish I could represent my country in a different light. But remember, I'm an artist, so I have this idea of what, when I create, makes the most beautiful woman. When I create with my palette, and I look at the palette and I use the darker things and I make the shine lights on it, I feel like I create the best work. So maybe when I create my artwork, I kind of want to see my light through it too. I kind of want to see myself like that too.
One last thing, what piece of advice would you give to young women who don't have their confidence?
I think everybody has that one thing that they do that's special, and you have to find it. You know what I mean? Once you know what it is that you are special at, and you know that you're the only one, and the trillion people in the world, all these people in the world, you're the only one with that gift, then you pick up that gift and you add on to it every day with your knowledge. And that's how I feel like you'll be confident to give it out, like to be out there in the world and feel confident. Like you have to find what it is that you just special at. And there's nobody that has nothing. There's nobody that's gonna be like, well, I don't know if I'm special like this. Yes, you have to pay attention to yourself. Sometimes we're so focused into getting into everybody's business. We don't see what's special about everybody else. Sometimes you gotta sit down and think about what it is that makes me special. What is it that I bring? Sometimes it's math. Sometimes it's in school. You know, that's why you see some people, they excel in school, because that is what they're good at. They're gonna run a bank one day. You know, sometimes it's their voice. They'll be in the shower and they're like sing and they're like, whoa, I'm going to the studio. Like something like that. Sometimes it's just knowing at an early age that you're able to direct somebody, because not everybody can direct. Some people are more willing to take direction, you know what I mean? More than so direct. Or you're a leader. You know, these things mean something that can build your confidence. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm a leader. I can tell somebody what to do without fracturing their ego. And that takes a lot of skill to do. You know what I mean? Finding what you're good at. And you can find it in anything. Whether you cook, the way you read, everything. We live in the world where everybody needs something that you're special at. They want it, you know? So find what it is and cultivate it and embrace it, you know? It could be the weirdest thing, but somebody wants to look at it, you know what I mean? So confidence come into the faith that you have within yourself and what you can bring to the world. You have to bring something. You have to look down into yourself and see what you bring into the world. And once you find that, you shine light into everything. And that's how you bring your confidence.
Thank you so much for your time today. You're such an inspiring artist, and you've inspired all of us.
Thank you so much. You inspire me, you know, just sitting next to you and knowing that this is what the future holds inspire me to keep going and having a platform for you one day and, you know, creating things, because you are the future. Like, thank you so much.